Doing it like this. We're live. Do it live.
Hey, let's go. Cool. So are we kind of talking a little bit before we went live, right? We were talking about equity in startups.
Yep. If you're you're UX designer and either in lieu of taking a salary or taking pay or along with taking equity.
Yeah.
When we're talking about like how does it work in a sense of like dilution, and then what's the pros and cons of it. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I mean, this is relevant. I mean, I brought it up because I'm in a startup currently and I'm starting to consider payments, and somebody told me, look at equity, and so has other, like, for other people who are considering joining startups at this level, like a super early startup, equity might be a really good option. So thinking about what kind of equity and what equity means would be really good for me. And so we're not talking, I mean, we talk about something called sweat equity. And what you said, sweat equity is like, I'm putting my energy, time, skills
your work
into a company so that I gain this equity thing. And equity can be, dividends every now and then, every quarter, whatever they agree on. Could be revenue.
I mean, the revenue would come in the form of the dividends, I believe.
See, I was wondering if equity could be, like if we talk about revenue, right? If I own, let's say 25%, and my company sells something at $100, do I get $25 of that?
I think it's written in like the bylaws of the company because again, if you're selling something, if you made $100 a year, I think some of that has to be cycled in for insurance and there's certain expenses. I would say taxes too, but I really don't know what corporate taxes are. Or not, I know what they are, but I don't know what the margins are. Like some of that 100 is going to the company itself. The majority of it is going to the company probably.
Right.
And then a bunch of it is going into pay your workforce.
Okay. And so in reality, it would be 25% would not come from the revenue, but the profit.
Yes. And then and then whatever the bylaws say of whatever percentage of the profit goes to the stakeholders, the board members, yada yada. And I think that breaks down to dividends. And and then like I said, the biggest reason you're taking equity or anybody's going for equity is the end game, the exit.
Yeah.
Whether it's acquisition, merging, or IPO.
Yep. Okay. Complicated, but I get it.
Yeah.
All right. So in this, what are we looking at again? What are we researching about? I forget.
I wanted to learn about the dilution. So again, say you got 25% of a company, and then they take on another investor that comes in and invests and gets 20% at whatever the current valuation is. Like, how does I honestly don't know how dilution works and like the actual mechanics of it. So and I don't think reading blogs is the greatest content to do over, but
maybe
I was looking for like a really good, like I wanted to see like a good like
you know what we should do? We should get an accountant on here.
Right.
That could actually be a legitimate person to talk to too. Just, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind a startup. And people think that financing a startup is simply just having capital, like buckets of money. But a lot of people don't think like you got to pay taxes. You got a lot of overhead to cover. You got a lot of, if you do have stakeholders, you got a different problem now, so on and so forth. And if you have like, let's say like incubators, right? How do you handle that in terms of taxes or whatever your ledgers look like? Like that stuff nobody thinks about, but you gotta know about it before you jump in. Okay. Yeah, seeded. When you're seeded, like what does it mean to be seeded?
I mean, a seed series is your seed is it's usually angel investment, friends and family, personal, financing. Usually your Series A comes from accredited investment institutions, venture
Okay.
capitalists, banks, angel funds, etc., etc.
Okay. And when you say angel, angel is anything is like
an
pro bono, like given for
nope,
free.
an angel is I forget the actual acronym or what the title is, but like a certified, like you have to be a certified investor.
Mm-hmm.
To like
We should bring Vivek back on here. He probably should. He knows
he,
all
he
this.
probably knows a
Probably.
lot of it, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to like apply and put your information down so that you can be an actual angel investor. I forget the regulations or I forget the consequences if you don't, but
Okay.
I mean there's obviously like workarounds. Obviously if like my uncle is super rich or my best friend's father's super rich, I'm sure he can give me money without, but yeah,
Okay.
a seed usually comes from angel investors. And angel investors are just people that invest in certain projects, certain ventures, but again, they have gone through the process of accrediting themselves. And they can be either singular or sometimes there's angel groups.
Corporate.
Like there's groups of angel investors. I mean, even what's that website? AngelList, I think it's called. You ever hear of AngelList?
I've heard of Angie's List.
Yeah, no, this is what is it called? AngelList. Yep. Yeah, this is a Boston-based company or started in Boston-based.
Cool.
But yeah, AngelList builds your infrastructure that powers your startup economy. They've kind of moved on. They started off as basically an Angie List or a Craigslist, but for startups to post their projects up here, and then for angel investors to find them and fund them, like crowdfunding in a sense, but for angel investments.
Okay, so how does that differ from Kickstarter or GoFundMe? I mean, GoFundMe is like, pay for my medical bills or whatever, but the idea is that early access payment sort of.
Nope. So what I would consider, and again, this is from my perspective. I'm not an expert, but money is green, right? Like whether you give me the money or Bill Gates give me the money, it's green money. But Bill Gates has more connections and more knowledge to help me move my venture. So it's not necessarily the money aspect that's going to help you, but what knowledge and connections and abilities that person is going to be able to help you with.
I see.
So that's why they say make sure you choose your investors. Make sure you choose your investors as wisely as you choose your founders.
Yep.
Because I can get money because there's certain funds and certain institutions out there that specialize in robotics, right? And if I'm a dating app, they're not gonna they're just not gonna be able to help me in my field. And
I see.
You know what I mean?
I see. So it's more than just money.
More than just money.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But I guess at the seed level, it might just be the money you need. But especially at the venture capital level, choose your venture capitalists wisely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta get somebody on. Maybe this will help.
I love how they do that. They give you this tiny little image.
All right, so founding team raising money from angels in a booming market like 2011. Sometimes this isn't price industry norm.
Sorry, give me 1 second. You can go ahead. Keep going.
Norm is around 20%. So I invested $500,000 and got 20%. 2.5 is post money valuation. I'm not going to pretend like I understand that. When the first institutional investors put their A round money, they will require you to have stock option plan. That's something I was telling you. To incentivize senior management to work with you. The angels and founders absorb this dilution. So what is this? They put in 3 million. And my dilution went from 20% to 12.5. Angels. Yep, I definitely need someone to come in here and explain this to me.
Yeah, I don't. I knew about it a little bit,
Same.
but I don't know.
Like I know it's a thing. How the actual mechanics of it work, I don't know in real world. And this is what I'm talking about for this whole stream, right? if this process was documented, I could easily go find it. But
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Robin's getting on soon.
Cool.
She did message me, so she has the link.
Yep, and yeah, just context for everybody listening. Robin is a UX designer with a background in AR,
Graphic design.
graphic design, right?
Yep.
But she worked on a company for AR. No, that was somebody else.
That
Gotcha.
was Jackie actually.
Yep.
Robin did work on I can let her explain it a little bit more in
Cool.
detail herself, but basically the company does security pads, like those, in the dial pads at like
Right.
offices,
Yep.
like the ones you have to type in your codes, or like a bank vault or whatever it is. Yeah, there she is. Hey,
Hello.
Robin. Thanks for joining
Hey,
us.
how's it going?
Not too bad.
How you doing?
I was giving people, we're already live now, so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Cool. So I was giving them a little bit of a background. Unless you want to pick up from here, you can kind of tell. We did meet through Our Date, the thing that I started in January, or not started, but me and Robin were on January. It was a dating app for people to like, at that time it was to get them to go out and like meet people together in a group sort of setting. And then it developed into its own thing. But from there, we kind of like split up a little bit, did our own thing, joined again on another startup, which I brought people on here. I actually brought Matt and the financial, I think their CFO was on this podcast a little bit. We talked to them about it, about Space Lab, and it was pretty cool. And then, yeah, we're here today. So Robin, if you want to give them a little bit of your background, that'd be great.
Sure. Let's see. I guess more specifically to like my UX UI background. I started studying UX back in, I think it was like 3 years ago now. It went by kind of fast. But I had a design background before, so I was doing graphic design and illustration. But I didn't go to college for design, and my UX started at a design boot camp. So I went to Career Foundry to do that. And then after I graduated, I just started kind of applying like crazy, and the job market felt crazy as well. So I just started volunteering and doing some internships and things like that. And you were at 2 of the 3 that I did before I actually got hired. So
wait, 3? Really?
You've been my, yeah, because the other one was the Civic Tech internship. I mean, it's kind of an internship. It's more like a voluntary thing. That's the Hack for LA one.
Oh, I don't think I was part of that. I was just in Space Lab and the Our Date thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you were in the other 2, the Space Lab and the Our Date.
Okay. Right. I think you said I was at 3. I was like, I was at 3. Cool.
You're a UX designer, not a math major.
Yeah.
What year
what
year did you graduate Career Foundry?
Was that October 2022?
Okay.
But I was studying on my own for a while, and then my program ended up going for pretty much like a whole year. Maybe it was like short of a month or something, but yeah.
Nice.
Did you go there too?
No, I went to like General Assembly, but like when you said the market was crazy, yeah, I graduated like during the pandemic, and it was wild getting a job.
Yep, I hit design.
Yeah, wasn't there like an influx of design jobs kind of after the first kind of few months of us not knowing what's going to happen?
Yeah, end of 2020, and I got a job at the beginning of 2021. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like
are you still at the same spot?
Popped up.
I like it. Yeah, I love my team. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah.
Lucky.
So, Robin, your last place you worked at was MTI, right?
Yeah, it's Mobile Technologies Inc. It was kind of like a smart lock hardware software company. But I was only there for 2 months, a little over 2 months, and then I got laid off, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, that sucked. I got like the whole round of like all this like typical tech things everyone says, hard to find a job, you graduate from boot camp, you find a job but you get laid off. I got all that just this year, and then working at a startup, or like contracting at a startup. But yeah.
So at MTI, I kind of want to dig into it a little bit. You were the sole designer there. Were you the first? You weren't the first designer at that company, were you?
Yeah.
You were first ever.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean they had like one or two people who were familiar with like graphic design on their marketing team. But even then, I was actually pretty surprised. They didn't really have like any kind of like design forward marketing people. They were all just kind of like throwing shit together and like
Yeah.
Canva and stuff, which is fine too. But you know, if they wanted to have like this kind of like really high end version of like designs, it's not always the best tool. But yeah, so I was technically the first designer.
I see. In terms of UX, though, for example, like most people that I've seen who are like programming, they know the basics just because they have enough experience and seen it all.
Mhm.
And like in my current startup thing, it no offense to those guys, it seems like they don't have a really good grasp of how things should look, like industry standard appearances and
Mm.
things. Obviously, they're
Yeah.
like using typical, layouts like rounded edges, colors, schemes, and stuff like that. But as far as like
Yeah.
input field options or having multiple CTAs, call to actions and such, I don't, at least the company that I was in, don't really see it. Do you know if your company was doing a little bit better on that front, or were they also struggling there?
I think, I mean, they were definitely struggling in terms of like the UX just
Mhm.
in general. You know, they had been around for about 40 years. They've been around for a while, but they shifted into more of like a software smart lock space in the last, I think, like I want to say like 5 years, which is not, you know, that long ago. But what they did have for software, they had outsourced it to
Mhm.
like some, I don't know, some sort of design firm or something. So they had, you know, the main things down, but when they were building for on their own, they would pretty much just have like developers design it how they thought. Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's supposed to be a button here, right? And like, oh yeah, this needs an error, and you know, just kind of just going with
when
it
developers
like that.
design, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily now they have one developer who I actually worked with at Space Lab for a little while. She was gone before you went in there,
Mhm.
Larry, but she has a really great design eye. Like she didn't study design, but I just from working with her, I could tell she works in Figma a little bit, like taught
Mhm.
herself how to do that a little bit. But yeah, now they don't have a designer, and half of their software team is gone. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
That's their loss, I guess. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Part of the reason why I ask is because of at this current place, not only are they struggling in terms of a little bit of the UI,
Mhm.
but now I also have to make some big UX decisions, right? Like,
Mm.
how do we change the onboarding sequence? Does the worker
Mm.
task flow need to be looked at and analyzed and built somehow? Big changes like these can take a lot of time to do, and I have to make a decision on whether or not we invest that energy to do that. Have you had to
Yeah,
deal with
yeah.
stuff like that too at MTI, or were you kind of just like, hey, I need to get this done, this done, this done?
So when I was at MTI, the main project I was working on, there's other side projects, but then one was building out this MVP for a project, a product that was requested by some of their like top clients. And so we didn't fully get into like changing a bunch of things because I was making the first MVP of it, you know, so there wasn't like a lot of changes happening. It's
Yeah.
a brand new product. We got into some testing just like internally, but we didn't even get as far to do any of that stuff or changing flows or testing or anything like that.
Mhm.
So some of the other projects, like side projects that I was working on, like improving some of the software they already had, we were able to do like changing some of the flows that they already had established. But in terms of like the main kind of bread and butter I was working on, that wasn't like the bulk of what I had time to do while I was there, at least not in the time I was there, you know?
Yeah. So was it kind of like a production feeling position? You know what I
What do
mean?
you mean?
So I like to separate things out in terms of drawing, right? Like actually creating
Mhm.
screens for an MVP, and then
Mhm.
decisions based on looking at research, deciding to
Mhm.
conduct
Mhm.
research, studies, all that stuff that might be necessary before you start creating anything. And it sounds like
Mhm.
a lot of that time you spent was just do the thing and use your expertise to do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
I think if I was there longer, I would have been able to do more of that exploration. I set like some time aside before I even like really jumped into Figma to do some like general research, but um, yeah, it was mostly just kind of production
Yeah.
while I was there. And I think also, I mean, from what I've talked about with other people, when companies bring on designers and they're not used, like it's like a new role at the company, they really don't know what you're supposed to be doing. So
Yeah.
you get like a lot of freedom, but also within that, especially if you're a new designer, like that's actually pretty scary because you have like no framework besides what you know,
Yep.
So you have to create that
Yep.
while you're there
Yeah.
and figuring out a new job and all that,
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
aspects to UX design that we could go through. I mean, we could do all the user flows, all the customer journeys, persona. Like, there's so much aspects that we could do, but it might not be applicable to what the stakeholder wants or needs.
Yep.
And in their mind,
or the time frame.
that exactly time frame, budget, and in their mind, they
Yeah.
have a desired outcome. Like, I want a shiny screen so that I can pass on to the devs, and they might not understand all the work.
Yeah,
They don't understand the journey
Mhm.
it takes us to get there.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it is.
Part of the struggle every day. So you've basically gone through the gamut of a junior level designer, like getting hired, getting laid off, started doing startup work, and you're now back at contract. Like, do you feel like
Yeah.
even those 2 months and having your new position now is like do you feel like you've gained a lot in even this little bit of time? Like, you know how to, like, if you were to go back again with the knowledge that you have, would you be like, hey, this is how it's supposed to be done this time?
Yeah, I would definitely be more confident in that. I felt like even in just the 2 months that I was at MTI, I gained a lot more confidence in just like my role there, because it was a very technically forward job because you had to understand the hardware, the software, and the firmware, and work with all those teams and how together. And I didn't have any experience working in like a hardware space or like talking to a firmware team, so like actually being able to like stand in those meetings and understand what they're talking about was already just like a huge deal for me because they're saying all the stuff. I'm like, I'm a UX designer. I don't know what the hell you're talking
I had a
about.
roommate who was a firmware engineer, and listening to him talk, like, buddy, I know nothing you're saying, right? Like,
I leaned a lot on ChatGPT for that stuff. Like, I would
That's my
literally
follow-up
be in
question.
meetings and being like,
Yeah.
what does this
I was just about to ask you, have you been using any AI in your workflow or anything like that?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, same.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. ChatGPT is probably the biggest one. I kind of use it as just like my little assistant.
Mhm.
I have it like kind of, if you pay for the subscription, you can have, it's not called set prompts, but you like feed it a certain amount of information that it takes into account no matter what you're asking it. And one of the things I had asked is that when I ask questions, more specifically about like product design, I want a technical explanation, an example, and then also a layman's term example. If it's something that I just like don't understand, because that's just how I learn better when I have like can think of it in an actual example, and then also have the very technical explanation of it. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm using. What about you guys? Are you guys using any other tools, like AI tools?
I was listening to this guy in Boston who was really talking really well about Bard, which is Google's AI. And I started using Bard like last week or two, and I really like it. Like, I love ChatGPT. So I do a lot of research, so it really helps me kind of get started on a lot of the script writing and learning objectives and kind of putting together some of that stuff. Yeah, I really want to get into some of the, I don't do much visual stuff. Like, I'm not big in, I don't do a lot of the UI stuff. I work with some fantastic UI designers, but yeah, I want to get into some of the visual stuff. I had one guy, he used Midjourney to design like a backdrop, like a splash screen type style. And like he had the image, but then he zoomed in on such a little part, and it was just wild. I was like, this is so cool that we get to use these tools to just kind of help us like push it a little bit faster and a little bit better. But
yeah, and for me, I haven't needed AI in that kind of capacity yet. The stuff that I'm doing, I feel like I can lean a lot more on my experience and like skill set. Like, I'm kind of doing production a little bit here, and the kind of the big questions of like driving a company forward. But I haven't had to like learn specifically yet. It's like, what I'm doing currently is like outsource or crowdsourcing snow shoveling. That's the idea. Or handyman services, whatever. And how do I get those people to sign on? Onboarding questions, kind of the same typical thing. So I haven't needed it. I think one day maybe I'll check it out and it's like, hey, this is actually really useful.
Are you saying the visual side you haven't needed, or but you use like the ChatGPTs of the world?
I don't think. Well, maybe because I
Or-
don't know how I can use it to help what I need to do.
Oh.
Maybe that.
I've used ChatGPT more for this venture, like just getting this stream out and like putting together my pitch deck, and
Yeah.
like, I've used it heavy for that.
I've definitely used it for tech stuff,
Yeah.
Like wording, copying, like UX copy, stuff like that, but not so much
Oh
design
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done it for that, but yeah, now that you're at this contract place, Robin, what's different? How's it going? Just I guess like you can even do a general upkeep or whatever, catch up.
Yeah, it's going well. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know it really probably doesn't matter, but I technically signed an NDA, so I'm trying to think what I'm allowed
Mhm.
No, but like how
to
does
talk
how
about.
does
I know it's just us in here, but
yeah how does
Well, it can be streamed and it will be recorded,
Yeah.
so I would say
Yeah,
be careful.
tread
Be
lightly.
careful, for sure.
Yeah, but like contract life in general for a designer, how's that going?
okay, so I'm a week and a half deep, so I don't have that much
Fair,
experience in that. But I mean, I was freelancing for, a couple or several years prior to this, so it does feel different. I'm like technically getting paid more than I was when I was salaried at MTI, but then you have to factor in like,
Health and
sending in
taxes,
all the
and-
taxes and health insurance and A through Z stuff. But yeah, I like it so far. It's kind of on a bi-weekly basis. That's how this contract. It's like a 6-week contract, but then it's like a check-in. I think they had some like contractors in the past that they like signed a contract for too long and realized they didn't want to work with them. So, I understand that. It's got to be a good fit on both sides, but it seems to be going well. But when you're in like from what I've experienced with startups, it's like kind of that they have a vision and it's a big vision and they want it done really fast, and sometimes the things that certain people want to be done in a certain time frame, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like they don't understand like how much, if they want something really good, like how long something takes and how many hands on deck you should have
Mhm.
for something that's so high stakes for them, so
'Cause it really,
that's kind of like where my head's are now.
it really is an iterative process, right? Like you work on something
Yeah.
hard and then you get feedback on it, you iterate or
Right.
look it through a different lens, or you go and test it and get the research and then do it again and do it again.
Yeah.
Like I do feel like a lot of stakeholders, especially in the contract and startup world, are like, make this thing. Like do the
Balancing that.
give me a screen that's shiny and has drop shadows. Like what's wrong with that?
You should just know already,
Yeah,
right?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
are you the sole designer here again too, Robin, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is something else that I've been thinking about a lot, because one of the biggest reasons why I got into UX and product design in general is because, like, when you're researching a lot about it, you hear a lot about it. You have the whole entire design team that you're working with. And the only time I've experienced that is when I'm like not getting paid to work. So the two places I've like worked at and got like, an actual paying job out of it, I'm the only person working on the whole thing, only designer working on the whole thing. And it just reminds me of like what I didn't really want to happen when I was like freelancing graphic design, illustration, more branding work. It's kind of like you're just working with a client and you're going back and forth, but you're not on a team of other designers that you can like, have ideas, like talking about ideas and just like feeling like you're really a team on this thing rather than like you're the designer and you're doing the whole thing by yourself.
Yeah.
You said
that's my goal, is to find somewhere.
You said something earlier, like when you were talking about the firmware engineers and being in like meetings with them and hearing them talk and how amazing that is, regardless if you understand all the context and what they're saying.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like a little bit of inspiration of like why we started this. Is I really did want to document and capture that synergy that teams have for designers and for people that are interested into what we do, that can't be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings. Because from my own personal experience, when I did start working for this team I'm with, are all fantastic, like decade under their belts, like they're really good at what they do. I was just like, even today, I was like in a meeting, I'm just like, you guys are so cool. Like, you guys are just the coolest. And just hearing them talk and I fanboy at my own team a lot. And that's like
Okay, goals.
yeah, that's
Get goals.
it's what I was trying to, like, that energy, that kind of special feeling is what I was trying to capture with this, of, talking to people and getting designers together. And I think it's awesome. I love it.
You know
Yeah,
what's cool though? I mean, maybe it's a personality thing for myself. I've actually enjoyed being a lead designer here because maybe it's a control thing. But I also feel like it makes the value add a lot more apparent, in my opinion, because I agree with you. I would definitely love to be in a design team, learn from people, work together, and start to, like, work with a bunch of people, and hey, we did this thing, we did a really big thing. But some part of me says, you know what, it's fun to see all the little pieces too, and make decisions based on what you're seeing, and like really be in it, versus if you're part of a design team, sometimes I feel like you're so many levels apart from what you need to do that you just kind of end up doing what's handed to you.
Yeah. Like, I don't do, like I said, I don't do a lot of the UI work. I don't do a lot of the, like, I handle the research side of things, which I love. I absolutely love talking to the customers, but at the same time, I don't get to sharpen my skills on a lot of the other things. So,
Yeah.
you both worked at Our Date, right?
Mhm.
Who was that gentleman we talked to? Was his name Sam or something? Who was the product manager or the lead designer on that team?
The last one we spoke with was David.
David.
He, interestingly enough, he worked as a sole designer, product lead before he joined Our Date. So he had
That's
basically
what
the
it
same
was.
experience that I'm getting now, and
Right.
the one that you have currently now, Robin. And then he moved into a team,
Like,
and I wonder how it worked
yeah,
for him.
so like on paper, on resume, on case studies and stuff like that, your portfolio, I think that looks great. When you're the lead designer, I'll be like, you have no choice. You're the only designer, so therefore you are senior. But I think that looks great in, like, the recruiting aspect. If I had to choose, I would choose a team. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm like,
There's pros and cons
Yeah.
to both, for sure.
you're forced
I
to
would
learn.
think, you grow really fast.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I feel like as a junior designer, if you're on a team, you might learn even more because you're learning from other people too.
Mhm.
And you guys are able to work on something, not, I guess, faster, but you have more of the dynamic to learn from. So I think that's more of what I want right now. But I totally see the pro of, like, kind of trying to take on the whole thing on your own, and how quickly you can learn like that too.
Yeah.
How are you liking drinking from the fire hose again? You're just like,
Rough.
I've been I was like thrown it at my face. I quit one and then, like, back at it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work, but I'm liking it. I'm kind of just taking it as, like, do the best you can, and work as hard as you can to get the client's vision, and even if they don't have, like, a very solid vision, to try and, like, help them curate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
If you what industries or companies are you, like, a wish list? What industry would you want to work in?
Yeah, so I've actually been liking working in the hotel industry. That's what this startup is that I'm working at, because I do love, like, travel and things like that. So I hadn't really thought about that before. So I do like that, but I guess more of, like, a broader goal, which I haven't really been focused on working towards, is getting into space tech. I was doing a lot of, like, coffee chats with people that work at JPL, and a couple from, like, SpaceX and different things like that. And I would really love that. I've been, like, a huge space nerd since I was a kid, so that would be, like, a huge goal of mine. But yeah, I'm kind of open. There's so many different I mean, you can almost work in any industry as
Mhm.
a UX or like a product designer in general, which is really,
Yep.
really cool. Yeah.
That kind of goes with the conversation that John and I had right before the stream started. We were, slightly concerned about bringing on too many UX designers at some point, because you would
Mhm.
think that everybody's going to start kind of saying the same thing. But because, like what you just mentioned, that everybody is able to jump into any industry, you will always learn. You have something to learn from them, like how they apply the skills, right? Like I was going to ask, like I've done a little bit of work with this, with Space Lab, the same as you, but like UX processes in that industry is completely different. I don't know if you've seen anything that might be an example of like how does space UX, how is it different from smart locks, right? Like, or is it mostly the
Yeah.
same?
I would say it's just from what I've had maybe like 10 coffee chats with UX designers in space tech. And one of the things that seemed pretty consistent is that it's very technically forward,
Mm.
obviously, but like you have to be able to read like academic papers and like
Whoa.
read through the documentation that the scientists like provide for them to understand what they're working with. So that's like a pretty
Holy
huge,
crap.
Wow.
they obviously don't need to understand it like the rocket scientists or something, but you have to be able to keep up
Yeah.
with that, and having a background that would be helpful. But which I mean, I was in a science major in college, but that's not, it wasn't rocket science, so I don't
Hey, but you're used to reading research
different.
papers, I
Science is
assume.
science.
Back in the day, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, easy. You can pick
Yeah.
that up, right? Dust off your shoulders. Like,
Yeah.
got it.
Especially with ChatGPT on my side now,
Hell yeah.
Oh
it's
yeah.
like give me the footnotes.
Yep. That's amazing.
Uh,
But yeah,
What
I've
about
been
you guys? What would be your like dream
Hmm.
I actually have been
industries?
considering moving into AR. I think we might have had this conversation,
Yeah.
Robin, a little bit.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
always been interested in it, and especially because I have an architecture degree, like that stuff is not a foreign idea to me. Like spatial awareness,
Yeah.
developing. The thing that I always loved about architecture, the artistry of it, is curating experiences as you move through the space. A lot of the
Mhm.
studies, theories are about like approaching a building, getting into the building, that whole sequence of getting from the steps to past the front door, the reveal when you get into the first big space that you get through, the journey throughout the spaces, like if it's a museum or whatever, your pathways through all these little curated spaces, and then when you finally arrive at a specific destination, whether maybe they have it or they don't, you're able to then, like some places say, like the ideal trip is you get to this location and you get to now look back down on your journey and really understand how you got there, and then like revel in the whole thing, and then like now you can leave the space with this understanding of an entire project. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Never been able to do something like that level, and most of the architecture you see today is not at that level. Like it's just houses and stuff. But when you do get to like a space that can do that for you, like museums are really great at this, but some are
That's
better than others.
exactly what I was thinking when
Yeah.
you were describing that.
Yeah.
But
Same.
even just think about like a theater, right? A lot of it really now is just like try to get to this black box, right? But you can really curate it. So you have like, you walk up and you're like, hey, this is a theater. You're like, great little big, landing page, home screen, whatever, image. You walk through the steps. You slowly like get to be enveloped by this thing. You walk through your ticket windows and such, and you're like, whatever. So like all of that just feels so fascinating.
I recently went to a community theater production of Pippin at like a senior citizen center. Exactly how it sounds. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see how like AR would definitely help that, because I'm very happy on the production level as far as their costumes, but everything else was like, it needed the imagination heavy. So I would definitely appreciate a little bit of AR to kind of set the scene a little bit better. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's my dream industry. We'll get there. I've been like moving and taking slow steps, but yeah, John, I actually never asked you about that. Like, is there an industry that you'd rather be in?
I mean, I was just thinking of it. Like, I feel it's kind of a cheat code. So like, I love venture studios and startup studios. Like, I love working on various projects from the 0 to 1 phase. So I don't quite know exactly what industry I would want. I'm currently in the consumer industry, and I like it because I like working with customers that are end users that use the product or need things from our product, but I don't have a cool answer. I'm lame. Yeah. I like communication.
You're open.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
open.
I like connecting people. So like anything in that form, this communication app, dating app, networking, any sense like that, I find very fascinating.
That's cool. Yeah, building platforms is probably the way to go then.
Community building, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sick. And this is one of those, and we've actually tried to approach this platform with from a UX lens.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we did, but we do have a survey actually.
Yeah.
Right.
And we did a lot
We
of.
did do some
I
research.
mean, yeah, Asia and us, we did a lot of brainstorming and that front end research, but got a lot more work to do. Yeah.
But yeah, Robin, you're looking for work now. Are you actively looking so much, or are you kind of just riding this current contract wave?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stopped applying to places like last week because I had so much work to do for the contract. But my goal is to apply to at least one place a day.
Mhm.
Have not been doing that. I need to do that. I did it. Go ahead.
No, I was just curious, like, because I think everybody has their own processes and stuff, but any tips and tricks in your approach to job searching?
Yes. So,
Nice.
I mean, I was mostly using like the LinkedIn quick apply, but I feel like that's kind of just like on the days that I need to just like stick with like getting one done, because I don't really feel like that does anything. I've heard people say that I found a job through LinkedIn quick apply. Like, okay, who? I don't know. You're lying, I think. I don't know. So
I did the same.
One thing I have been using, and now this sounds like a commercial or something, but I was using this platform called Hunter. It's HUNTR.
Does it tell you
and not really
the email addresses of people at the?
No, well, maybe it has that feature, but no, it's mostly just for like, because I was using Excel, just like a spreadsheet to keep track of like where I've applied and all the information about that one. And this one is just more of like a visual. It kind of looks like a convent bar or convent board. And it has you can put like all these different notes and like when you applied and just everything, and it's made it a lot easier to just keep track of where I've applied. So I've been using that, and then other than that, when I do apply to places, I try to go through their actual website rather than applying on LinkedIn. And then I message who's hiring, and I also try and go into, if it's somewhere like I really want to work and if I'm like dedicating time, I go in and see who their like product designers or anyone on the product design team and try to like reach out to them. Not be like, hey, recommend me, obviously, but just be like, ask them like, how do you enjoy working here? Like something like that. And then I tailor each resume. I run it through ChatGPT and give it the entire job post. And I run it through there just to make sure I'm like hitting some of the key points and make sure it's accurate, right? But make sure it's like kind of hitting those key points, because since it just goes through an AI system on the first round anyway, I want to make sure I get past that kind of first robot. And
you know what?
So that's
You mentioned that. I actually didn't think about whether or not they use AI as a recipient, right? Like if I start to use like ChatGPT to write a cover letter, and then so it's like I go through an AI, then that gets fed to another AI. It's like, hey, like there's an AI filter, and they're like, yeah, this guy did do anything. Yikes.
Yeah, it's called you need to make your resume ATS friendly, and then it needs to be like specific to that job. Like you can actually run, I forgot the name of the website, but there's a website where you can run the job description and your resume through, and it'll tell you like the percentage, because a lot of the ATS system will be like, oh, don't run this resume through to like a recruiter if it's not like 85% and plus. It'll tell you if your thing ran through at like 75% or something. So you wouldn't even get through to a recruiter.
I see.
Yeah, it's just like a numbers game.
Yeah, I learned that. Oh, I heard that trick. Not that I've ever done it, but getting past ATS systems by like making the font super small and then changing the color. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, never,
so like
I never heard that one.
Like because you have a resume and it's a certain size and you don't want to go double page or anything like that. But like if there's certain keywords that you can't throw on there, just make a little box somewhere at the bottom. Write all those keywords.
Oh,
make the font 1 and white. right? So like the system will still pick it up
Right.
because it's there, but you'll never see it. Yeah, little
Oh.
hack.
It's a quick
That sounds
little
like a
hack.
TikTok hack or something. I
Yeah.
love those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, you said Hunter. Like, so I've used Hunter.io. It's a website that allows you, if you put in a website in there, it will draw all the emails that are attached to that website that are somewhat publicly known. So you can find the CEO's number or email. You can find.
That's dangerous.
It's a little
Wow.
bit. It's a little sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I've used it in the past for like a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff I do. Yeah,
How do you go about like reaching out to these
terribly.
people?
Call the-
Yeah.
Hey, hire me.
Yeah,
Because
I struggle, and I've told Larry this before too. Like I struggle. I'm such an oversharer that I just like I want to tell you everything.
I do that too.
Yeah, so like, and I struggle between like writing too little and then writing way too much, and it's usually the latter. Like I usually write way too much, and it's usually a lot of crickets that I get in response. But
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty normal though. If we send it out, we have to like not take it personally when they don't respond.
yeah, I agree.
The thing I mentioned this before, the thing that hurts the most about those crickets is that you don't get any information, right? I'd like to know that if I was, past their ATS, if they rejected me because of my skill experience or whatever it was, I'd like to have known. But crickets,
So I'm like,
there's nothing.
I've talked about this with some designer friends, like when we graduated and we were all going through the same process, and I'm curious if there's any regulations on like what they can say or can't say, right? Because like if I like you're saying, I want feedback to make me better. That's our job, right? Like if my resume didn't look good, if it wasn't structured well, if I'm not hitting certain criteria, if I need to learn a software that or whatever it is, I want to know to make me better. But are they making themselves liable by expressing any of this, right? So yeah.
And also, do they have the time to like go through?
Yeah.
So you've gotten
that's
I
the
mean,
real answer.
maybe they give feedback to people that they interviewed. That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
But most people, they don't. They'll just.
Yep. I have gotten lucky with one recruiter. She was very nice. And when I asked her for it, she was like, you know what? Thank you for applying. We did like your skill set, but they just needed somebody who was more of an artist background. And I was like, damn it. Don't have that. It's like nothing that I could do there. So good to know, right? But Robin, do you remember, this might be a little off topic, but do you remember Kevin from Our Date, Kevin Johnson, our mentor guy? I'm kind of working with him a little bit in like an agent. He's like deciding to start an agency. So I'm like kind of on board with him. We haven't done anything yet. And it's like all freelance work, but he did mention that he has a role open for a designer with design system skills. I don't know if you have, or if you have any expertise on it. I mean, I know you built that system in Our Date with the other two, but I was like, I don't have that much experience. My portfolio definitely doesn't showcase specifically that stuff. I don't know if you have any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely worked building out the design system, and I was doing that at MTI too, like simultaneously while I was building out the MVP. They also did not have any designs in their possession, like in Figma or anything like that, on the software that they already had. Like the teams that they had outsourced to didn't give them any type of design files, which I thought was crazy. So I had to kind of like replicate that into Figma too and build out the design systems for each of those as well. But yeah, I'd be interested to know like what kind of level of expertise he wants someone to be at, because I know he probably comes from like a lot of senior designers that are like, I'm not like someone who's worked at Google or Apple that, has been on design system teams or something like that. But I'd love to get to that status at some point. But
I mean, I'll pass the message along for sure. And I was like, yeah, now that I think about it, you have a lot more than I do. I don't know what he's looking for. And he himself is like a senior designer with design systems expertise. So Kevin already is like at the top, basically, I think. I'll pass it along. I think you might be a good fit. We'll see. And you guys are both on the West Coast, so it'll be a little bit easier, I think. Anyway, so the job market. I was about to ask you, I was like, I kind of like fallen out of it a little bit because I'm working a full-time job. I have a startup thing that I'm working on, and we've got this. And I have like my own little learning, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about AR networking with that. I'm like, I don't have time to do applications anymore, but I feel like I'm making the right kind of steps now. Like, that analogy where you have to pull the barrel back before you go forward. I'm pulling it really far back right now. I'm like just going and going the other way. But I believe in the process, and I was gonna like kind of wanted to take this time to ask you if you like, how's it been on your end, like in this industry? Like, do you feel like it's kind of recovering a little bit, or if you have no real insight on that yet? I don't know.
For me?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're the only one that's really looking at this point.
Oh, right. I mean, it seems like really similar to what it was when I was first applying, which was, like more in the beginning of the year. Anytime I look on LinkedIn and look at a job post, it already has like in the first hour, like hundreds of applicants.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's the same. Like you need to at least have made a connection with someone that works there, or like know somebody that works there.
Yeah.
That's just been my experience so far. I wouldn't have even gotten through to the first round at MTI, like gotten that first interview if I didn't know someone that worked there.
Right.
They had over like 500 applicants in the first day, and then they took down the job posting.
Yep.
I'm like, I would have been just one of those 500, and like, there's a lot of probably really talented people in that pool,
Yep.
So.
And then you still got laid off.
Yeah. And then I still got laid off. Yeah, that was rough. That was really rough. I felt more bad for like a couple of the other people on the team that got laid off too. Because it seemed like, they were coming from already having established jobs, and they were kind of doing that typical tech thing where they say like, keep applying even if you're happy. At least that was one of the stories I heard. And then they left something that they already had, and then they got laid off in like a couple months. I'm like, that's not right. Like,
that's a nightmare that I have.
That's messed up. And when you get hired, you think you have this like, there's like this sense of security, and now that's like completely gone for me. I'm like, I'm not gonna feel a sense of like job security. I mean, I it's hard for me to even envision what that feels like right now, because like once you get the salary position, you think it's true. It's like,
it's
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking.
It's true.
Oh
yeah, no, I agree.
Jess, it sucks.
Yeah, Robin.
Because you're like, well, for some reason, the contract work almost has like a little bit more of a sense of stability, because you're like, you feel more in control over it, and you set like the time frame and all that kind of stuff. So you're like, okay, at least I know I'm good for this time frame, Because then, like, it seems like in a salary job, they could just let you go any second. But yeah.
That sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? You think like salary, oh great, I'm like locked in for at least a year. I can start thinking about buying houses and big purchases and stuff. But
that's what I thought too. But now that has shifted in me.
Now my current role is contract. I've been contract for 2 years, 2.5.
Wow. How come you haven't switched to salary? You'd rather stay in contract?
I mean, I would have to leave my team and leave what I do. Which, I mean, it's great. I'd probably make more money if I moved on. Obviously, that's how generally people increase their pay raise, is moving on instead of getting internal raises. I don't know. I love my team. I love what we do. I think I'm a little pampered, and I know I can do my job, right? Like, and plus I have other things that I like doing to challenge myself, like this included. So, but I know I should probably move on.
I feel like we've kind of had this conversation a little bit on that side, where you mentioned that this actually works with your lifestyle a little bit, like what Robin, you were saying about having control, setting your own times and boundaries.
Like if I don't want to go to work tomorrow, like no one's like, I don't feel like working tomorrow, y'all. Like
I do feel that with the contract too, where I set it where it's like I can work, it's like 4 to 5 days the max, but it's like 4 to 5 days. And then also if like something happens, I'm just like, no, I can't. I haven't had that yet because, I've only been here for a week and a half, but last week I only worked for 4 days. But yeah, this does give you that freedom for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Robin, tell me the truth. How likely are you going to get fired?
From the contract?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, they seem to really like what I'm doing, but
is there a salary option?
It seems like you never know.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like down the line. But I feel like a lot of startups kind of say that in general, where they're like,
Oh,
you
so
know, it'll turn into this thing.
we were
you know?
talking about something right before the stream and into the stream. If you were offered a position, would you take salary and equity? Is equity something that's desirable to you?
Yeah, yeah. Especially if, I mean, I can see the vision and direction they're going in, and it seems like something that could really work. So, yeah, I would do that for sure.
At your current place, is that what you're saying? So you trust the place
yeah.
you're at?
Even general,
Great.
yeah.
Well, I mean, so far, you know, I don't know. I don't put all my trust in them by any means, but
You're like, what's the word? You're traumatized from the last place. You're like, your security is shot. You don't trust anybody anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a little traumatized, that's for sure. Yeah. That's okay.
That's again heartbreaking to hear, like people who quit full-time positions, had like set roles, and then they leave that. Oh my God. I can understand that, because currently I'm at a full-time position. It's not UX related. It is like a 7 to 3, clock in, clock out. Great. I can work here for 10, 20 years, be completely secure. I don't want to. Now there are opportunities coming that are like, hey, this is a 3-month stint. This is a freelance gig that's an undetermined the length. Do I jump? Right? Like now, you know, hearing even the stories from you, I'm like, I can't risk this. And I'd hate to be in that position where I'm like, do I think about my future in this way or in the like security way? And I'd hate to make that decision. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like you can find another one of the jobs you're working at right now, though, pretty easily?
Probably. Well, put it that way, yeah,
I
probably.
feel like you could.
I don't want to though, right? Like it feels like, imagine like you take this one step and you're like, this is my stepping stone. Like I just do this for a little bit. I can definitely use this as a stepping stone. But I was thinking, like, if it's a 3-month contract, I don't think I'm getting that much more experience to be really leveraging this stone anymore. I'm kind of back to step one. And so I've lost 3 months of time. I've lost a secure position. And like, why did I do it? Right. And what do I need? Like, so then it comes to, how do I get to that X level, right? It's no longer looking at these stepping stones anymore. I can't count on these. Like even you, right? You're a great example of why those aren't reliable anymore. Like, and then like, okay, how do I shoot for the top here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell me. I don't know.
Yeah.
We do this. We just keep pulling the arrow back.
Yeah. Yeah. What got you into UX, Robin? Like you had visual design background, and I would love to learn about that too.
Yeah.
That's something a friend I just introduced Larry to, she's one of my favorite designers I know. And like she had a background in visual design, which helped her so much. And like when we were in the boot camp together and like seeing her skyrocket and just crushing.
Oh, that was her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome.
Ooh, I love to see her work.
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
We're gonna shout out her right now.
Jackie Shu.
Shout out.
But yeah, like I think it's, if I had to choose a background to have to get into UX design, I would probably choose visual design. Yeah, what got you into UX design?
Yeah, so I was doing illustration and graphic design and branding for a few years, and I was kind of looking into when I was looking into getting hired, like salary, because I was doing freelance for a while. I was an in-house designer for a little bit, but like kind of on my job search looking for other options, I came across, like, you know, when you're looking on job boards and you see like designer and it just says designer, but then it has like, you know, more specific things, and everybody calls everything the wrong thing. So pretty much I came across one that was like, it was a UX designer, but it said like just visual design or something, you know? So it got me thinking, and I was like digging into it. And then I felt like, I don't know if like YouTube picked on to my like intrigue, but I was like going down all these rabbit holes trying to learn more about it. I took some like courses just to see if I liked it before like committing to any type of like paid boot camp or something like that. And I really enjoyed it. I also liked how it was a little bit more like technical, I guess, than what I was already doing. And I liked the idea of like working on a team, and so that's kind of how I ended up taking the boot camp and transitioning that way.
Nice.
Would you fall back on graphic design, like as a, you know, your strong suit? I mean, I assume you can find a job doing just that if you wanted to, if you really needed to. I'm assuming you can do that.
Yeah, I could see doing that again. Yeah, I think I do want to like continue to keep going in the UX
Mhm.
UI direction, but I could see like if things are like if I'm down really bad or something, pick up some like graphic design uh, gigs here and there. I have done that a little bit in the last year, but not anything like not too much.
Mhm. I don't know how graphic design works. I mean, obviously we all know like the visuals and stuff, but is there like a mindset that you can lend, borrow? Because the way I see how people move into UX, they like leverage a lot of their skills from the previous studies. A lot of it comes down to framework, right? Some people have this research background, PhDs, like in what like Vicky we had a few weeks ago was a PhD in psychology. But none of the psychology stuff transferred. It was her expertise in research that transferred over. I knew a mentor from my bootcamp who worked in restaurants, and that expertise helped her land jobs with DoorDash, right? So you never know where things come from, but like just like having the right mindset can always take you into something related in UX. And I was wondering, how does graphic design, aside from the visuals, like have you noticed anything that's been helpful?
I think the communication you have with clients and trying to like understand their vision and kind of more of like the branding aspect of it, where you're trying to make sure the visuals align, but also that it's like working towards a particular goal that they're hiring you for. That's like a lot of what like UX UI ends up being, is like you're trying to work towards a specific goal, either if it's specifically for the user and or for like the whole product as a whole for the business. So I found that to be really similar. Being able to talk with clients in that way, I feel like has really helped me be able to do that now. And for many years, I mean, it's been a while now, but I was actually in hospitality too, and I feel like that helped me a lot too, because you talk to people constantly, and you're able to kind of like work in a fast-paced type of feeling, and you can keep up with the kind of small talk, but also be able to just like chat with people and feel comfortable, so I feel like that actually helps a lot in how I speak with people, and that helps a lot with my graphic design and all that as well.
You heard it here first. If you don't know how to talk to anybody, get out of the field. You're not gonna I mean, I think I agree. I agree, actually.
Yeah,
one of my lead designers on my team, they were in theater. They were like a stage manager. And they're like, their confidence during presentations is just propelling them. Like, they just know how to talk, right? I think,
yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Definitely helps for sure.
Yeah, confidence is the greatest asset, especially as a contractor. Like, be confident in what you say, and hopefully it'll work out.
Oh man, it feels a little depressing, but I'm also kind of hopeful, right? Like we talk about what the world the industry looks like right now, and how we are able to always leverage our own skills, experience, and we'll just like, I guess we'll all keep moving forward. I mean, I think that the greatest skill set a UX designer has is the ability to learn and adapt, and that's what I've always loved about it. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's always something to learn, and I'm never afraid of asking questions and trying to just pick at it, and I'll get something out of it no matter what.
Forever student.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, Robin, what do you do to kind of sharpen your skills? Do you read reading books? Do you like what I know like design challenges. I follow a lot of newsletters and LinkedIn people on LinkedIn that like inspire me in the UX field and kind of keep me up to date. What do you what do you do?
Yeah, so one of the things that, I mean, if I'm like at a bookstore, I always end up getting a design book. Whether I read the whole thing all the way through is another thing, but I have quite a few that I want to read. One of which I actually got this at the bookstore next to the cafe we went to, Larry, when I was in Boston. 101 Things I Learned in Product Design School.
Love the cover.
I feel like I need to get that.
It's nice, and it's a little chunky book, which I personally love books like that. But yeah, I like this one, and I just will read like one or two kind of a day, and I just keep it on my desk, and it's kind of in this format, so you just like read one, and then you can just close it, and that's it. So I like that.
Super low commitment.
Low commitment, yeah. but I do have plenty of design books I need to get to. Articulating Design Decisions was the most recent one that I actually read that one all the way through. That one was good. But I've been doing some courses on Coursera.
Yeah, same.
I also actually, something that one of my takeaways from working at MTI was how important it is to be able to talk with devs and understand what they're talking about.
Yep.
And I feel like having a stronger understanding of kind of, how the devs work and how the apps are actually built would be really beneficial. So I had applied to the IBM Micro Bachelor's.
What is that?
I got the email.
On Coursera?
It's like a...
Yeah.
No, I think it's hosted on edX.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a full stack development, app development. They call it a micro bachelor's. Yep. I don't know how different it is from like a boot camp, but that's what it's called. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And I have to decide soon, but it starts October 21st, but it's like an 8-month commitment. So
whoa.
Yeah, and it's like a boot camp commitment, I think it would give me a stronger understanding of how that stuff works. Not to be like a developer myself or anything, but just to kind of go into it to just like learn how it all works and do my best kind of thing. I think it would look good on a resume
each of your boot camps, do they teach you anything about coding?
Nope.
No, I mean, you were able to pick like a specialization in mine, and I regret not picking the like any development stuff, because the one I chose was kind of like prototyping animation type stuff, which I feel like I could have really just picked up on easily, like through YouTube tutorials and stuff. I mean, same thing for the full stack stuff, but I just think it would have been nice to have more of like a course on that, but I might do it now. So
nice.
I mean, I don't think you would have known back then how important it was to get that.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know if there must be like a quick book that's like how to talk to developers as a UX designer? There must be a book.
Whether it's effective or not, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like it'll be like, hey, let's think about when you hand off stuff. Let's think about what kind of assets you produce, documentation, like these things. I feel like you never learn in anywhere. Like a boot camp about dev isn't going to teach you the bridge between UX and dev stuff. You'll kind of have to just make the connections yourself still.
I think that's, I mean, at least in my team, that's the product manager's job, right? Like everything I do filters up to my lead designers and my product manager. Like I'm in meetings with dev, but I really don't, even though I'm the researcher, but like I really don't pass anything on to them. Usually everything goes to the product managers. But yeah, it's such a, and I know it's like a joke on both sides. Like I know developers hate designers, right? Like it's such a fun little joke on both sides. Yeah, like
it's like so many memes on
so
that.
many memes. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Of like,
and it's the same with architects too. I'm in the same exact boat. Architects talking to engineers, exactly the same.
Like, and we're like screaming like. We we made the designs. We did it. This is what we want. And then it comes out looking like, like you got like ran through a wet mop or something. But yeah, on both sides, I think it's just it boils down to like empathy and like understanding of each job is hard in its own right, and like I can't do what they can do and they can't do what we do, and like it just is what it is, and the communication is definitely essential. And then I think as technology, especially AI, evolves and helping kind of smooth out those transitions and those things, because like the padding is 10 but on the app, like in the actual productive app, it's like 20 or something, or like it just looks so wonky. But it's
wild. But anyway, Robin, it has been about an hour since you were on. If you want to stay, we can continue to talk, but if you do need to go, you're more than welcome to go. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. We learned, I mean, it's always a pleasure to have anybody come on here, and another fellow UX designer going through the same thing as a lot of us are going through. It's great to hear from you.
Agreed.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I do have to do some contract stuff now for the startup, but yeah, it was fun talking with you guys. I want to tune in now and hear some of the other ones, because I haven't been able to stream this yet. Did you say you had someone else on from Our Date? Did you have Dora on? I can't remember.
Not yet. I do need to get her on. Funny enough, we actually just pivoted from Twitch to here. We do have a lot of that
Mm.
stuff saved. So like on YouTube, we'll probably start uploading a lot of the old stuff. We had David come on here a long time ago, so it's cool to hear his perspective on things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
had Kevin on here, right? Is that right? I forget.
I remember 2. So I think 2
Okay.
people have been on here from our date.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe he was been here, and
Mhm.
Dora would be a great person to bring on. Just I never got the backstory about how she started the company, why she did it, what her intents were, and because having people from Space Lab come here, they were like, we intended for this to be a people incubator, and I was like,
Mm.
Dora's companies, our data is starting to move into that direction, and she's moving cohorts in and out and like cycling
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
and I wonder how much of her intent is to push the product versus to just develop students. So I don't know, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that too.
But anyway, yeah. I'll definitely forward over Kevin's stuff to you. I think you'd be a pretty good candidate for that. I unfortunately don't do enough design systems work, so I'll let him know.
Yeah. Really appreciate you.
Let me know.
I just want to say appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, bye, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Sweet.
That was great. Yeah, you are right though. I don't think we're ever going to run out of UX designers that we can talk to, because each perspective is so unique, and the industries and the journeys everybody takes is unique.
It's always been journeys, stories to me, right? The thing that fascinates me about everybody, and it doesn't matter what industry even, is always they had their own journeys, right? You can kind of build parallels between people sometimes. Like me and Robin have very similar paths, at least starting from our date. But even getting to that point was always different. Would always be different, no matter who. And somebody like anybody who's in a completely different industry would be even more different. Like I would be like, how did you get to the idea that I want to do a startup? Like somebody like Vivek, right? Yeah. It's funny because he was saying he just wanted to meet people.
Yeah.
And now he's making.
I've been wanting to know his story for months. Like
yeah.
But like,
you have a good
but it's such an awkward thing to like see him at a networking event and be like, tell me your story, right? Like,
right.
You need to kind of get him to this type of context. But yeah.
You know what we'll do? We'll have 7 billion interviewees. That's what we'll do.
Nice.
Then we will run out of people to interview.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so much fun.
I love this is why I kind of want to keep doing this. Like just this podcast itself, like having conversations with people. Doing design work has always been great. Like in some way this feels like an outlet for me, and it also helps to like sharpen my skills too, a little bit.
Great.
Like learning to talk to people, learning to think and empathize, just like constantly practicing that. I think that's been helpful. Just general takeaways for my own industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about how we can leverage our skills and experience. This has definitely been it.
Yeah.
But
pretty cool.
You want to call it for tonight, or do you want to keep going?
We can call it.
Okay.
I probably got a little bit of work I gotta do.
You contract kids.
Yeah.
You. I have that startup life. It's always work time for me.
Well, like I set out to like do something today, and then I got pulled into like 3 separate like meetings that were like fire drill meetings. So like we had to like produce something really quick because like one of the stakeholders and PMs were panicking about something that like at the end of it we're actually not gonna touch. Like it was pretty wild to like go through.
What's a fire drill meeting?
It's like a term, just means like panic, right? Like a fire drill is like just something's on fire, right? Like and we just have to now get in a meeting and run through this and come up with a solution to put out the fire. Yeah, I think I'm using it right, but yeah.
I mean, I know exactly how I've done that, but I've never heard of that term, but okay, cool.
My design lead was calling a fire drill meeting today. We went through 3 of them. Well, 2 of them were
fire drill meetings.
2 of them were like more the fire drill, and then the third one was just talking about something else. But yeah, like set off that, like I had my whole day planned. I was like, all right, threw on the music. It's like I'm getting a groove, and then technically I probably could have skipped maybe some of the meetings, but again, I love being those, like just being in those meetings is just so much fun, and seeing them work. Oh my god, I love it so much.
You know how much I would pay to be a fly on those like on the wall to hear some meetings? Like I would love to hear exec level meetings, right?
And like I still have to figure out, and I think when I pitched to one of my meetings this week, or all of them, like, okay, help me through this, okay? Like, does the product matter? Like, I want,
Okay, wait.
so like,
Oh,
if I want to, if what I'm trying to produce is seeing a team work together, right? Does the product matter? Like, does it have to be a successful product? Like, can we design like what we're doing with Fable in a sense, but on like a
Yep.
larger scale and like really, really going through it, right? Like, can we build a crap product, like push it as far as we can, dump money into it, knowing that it's probably not ever gonna get a good ROI, right? Possibly, maybe not, but again, the point of it is to, first of all, like, document the journey, but also like these the fire drill meeting I was in, like that will happen, right? Like, it doesn't need to be, maybe it does need to be like a productive app or a successful product. I don't know.
I was going to argue that you cannot have a crappy app if you do productive and really impactful meetings, right?
That's what
If
I'm
you
wondering.
make good decisions, I don't believe you can make a crappy app or product.
And that's fine. I don't know.
So what I mean is, like, I think the answer is like two halves of the question is no, the product doesn't matter, but you will not be making a crappy product.
Right. Or you won't go far making a crappy product.
I don't think it's possible, right? If you always make the correct decisions in terms of like a business decision,
so
user decisions, right?
So by crappy, I mean like the Fable. I mean, I think the Fable app is a fantastic example because like we could design that thing to the T's, right? We can
Yeah.
we can make a polished, shiny thing to help Wolf Person track the lunar.
Yeah.
Like, we could really go hard, and it could look good. It could have bells and whistles. But like that might be an extreme case because like the fire drill thing came from or like other type of like pushbacks will come from the market or come from the stakeholders, or like, you know what I mean? Like and that's what I want. Like, I want to work on something where we get pushback either from our stakeholders or the market, and we have to adapt, and because that is the real world situations that I want to document, and like those are the moments where designers, everybody shines, right? Like,
Yeah.
The Fable one is really fun, but like we're just guessing, right? Like there's
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
there's no
we're-
way to base it on truth, right?
exactly, yeah. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll do this, and it doesn't matter. I want something to matter, but I also don't care if it is a successful app, because that is not my end goal. My end goal isn't to make a successful product. I hope it is. My goal is to document the journey in every aspect that I can. My question is, can I get that content with an app that isn't going to be successful, or a product that isn't going to be successful? Do I need a successful product to produce the kind of content that I want? I don't know.
Let me answer that in the way I think makes sense. The content that you would create for a meeting that went with creating a terrible app, right? Kind of goes back to what I was saying. I don't think you'd want that content. Imagine people made decisions like, I think it should be this, with no experience, no assumptions. I think this, I think that, I think that. Make terrible decisions. The app would be terrible. So you kind of get what you're looking at. But you wouldn't want content like that because it doesn't teach you anything, one, and it's no good for you, right? There's no way to
Yeah.
use this kind of content. And so this is what I mean, right? The product itself, it doesn't matter, I think. But ultimately, the processes, if you do the correct steps and processes,
Yes.
you cannot end at a terrible product.
Ooh, good point.
It's
Okay.
just innately cannot get there because you're making the right steps. Obviously, it's not going to be like beautiful or whatever,
Right.
but at least you're doing. And then this is the important part, right? The content is the processes, the correct processes, the correct critical thinking. All of those things are the important pieces. Whether or not whatever the product is, I don't really care. If it's like how to design a toilet, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you'd still be making correct decisions. Like, it has to be this. You make all
Yes.
these assumptions.
Yeah. So like one of the things I'm gonna say, like I have dozens of product ideas. I am not claiming any of them are good or gonna work, but like the chat bowl idea and other ones, like, can I work on those ideas, push them to a degree that, again, produces the content that I want, but I don't care. Like, I mean, I care if chat bowl is successful, but like, it's not my actual goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, and to specifically for Chapel, maybe a meeting and the decision could be, it's not worth it, right? That's a successful
Ooh,
decision.
good point. Good point.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, their decisions are the content. The thinking is the content.
I like what you're
What
saying.
you work on isn't really
Yeah.
the matter, right? This is why the Fable thing was so important to me, because no, I didn't care what it did.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're thinking about. I care why you're thinking about these things, how you're approaching it. All those things are the more important pieces. And you know, this is why UX is so cool, because now you can apply those things to any industry.
Yeah.
In any sort of design skills. I mean, that's why I think that's partly why I love it so much. And I see myself committed to it, even though it's been a struggle, but it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Spoiler: it's always gonna be a struggle, but
So anybody else listening,
yeah,
get ready.
yeah, and in your specific situation too, like, it's as crappy as it sounds. Like, if you put it in context of like you're secure, and I would not give up your secure job for anything other than another secure job. Like, I would not.
Well, you would assume it's secure.
Fair, but it
Right.
also that is absolutely fair. But yeah, like, in the context of I have complete faith in you and everything I know about you, that you will get a job within 3 years, right? Like, that is,
Okay.
I know, right? That's it's wild to think, right? Like, but like,
Yeah.
but 3 years isn't. It's long, but it's not that long, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, my point being is, like, don't give up, right?
No.
Like,
Right.
keep your secure job, keep jabbing away at you know, all your UX learning, all your applications, your networking, keep at it, because it sounds impossible that if you keep doing that within 3 years you won't have it, right? Like, that's my point. Like, I don't think you're actually gonna go 3 years. I'm just saying, like, you have
I
the.
hope not. I really hope not. Please, not 3 years.
No, I doubt it, right? Like, it sounds impossible to me that knowing you would go that long without, you know, some sort of turnaround. But because you have the secure job, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Exactly.
and that's the point, right? Like, you can go 3 years doing this, and that's the benefit. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Thank you for the vote of confidence. Really appreciate
I
it.
have all the confidence in you, buddy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, let's call it for tonight.
Cool,
Thank
cool.
you for any listeners. Thank you for anybody who's listening in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for having this. Thank you.
Yes.
It's
Thanks.
a journey.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I want to make it my job. Like, I want to do this
Yeah.
all
this is
day,
fun.
every day.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
All right.
Alrighty,
Signing
everybody.
out. Good night.
Bye. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful